All right. I've traveled 3 times in the past 5 years to photograph Cuba. Friends and family initially reacted with a raised eyebrow. Now many of them have visited or said they want to before Cuba changes. Commercial flights from the U.S. will start this fall, and rum and cigars, not just Cuban music, can be brought back into our country. I met Daisy in 2011, me photographing Old Havana awakening, and she selling coffee from her kitchen window. Her business, which includes sandwiches later in the day, has increased every time I see her. I bring gifts and a pair of shoes for her each time I visit, and am always greeted as if I'm a long-lost child. Level playing field? Boys from ages 5 to 18 kick soccer balls on a rain-soaked play yard, while young, well-dressed schoolgirls cavort at the University of Havana after singing with their classmates for the opening of the 2013 International Women's Conference. Dangling wires and sagging staircases are not an uncommon sight. With each trip, I've seen more buildings being restored, many clearly because of the tourist trade. Others, like the Museum of the Revolution, once dictator Batista's home, are maintained because of its revolutionary importance. Dilapidated staircases lead up to a third-floor paladar. Definition: a privately owned restaurant located in a Cuban's home. I was dazzled by the beautiful state of disrepair on each floor, a photographer's dream, further dazzled by the restaurant's atmosphere and cuisine, then finally the state-of-the-art kitchen. In the past 2 years, Cubans have been able to buy and sell their own homes rather than having housing provided by the state. Homelessness is unknown. Last November, while walking on the Prada, I came across Cubans holding write-ups and photos of houses for sale. I've found Cubans to be warm, generous, proud, beautiful, handsome, sexy, talented, and informed individuals. My camera has been my calling card, allowing me to meet and photograph them. And thanks to Jan Strout for introducing me to the many accomplishments of women in Cuba.
Gracias, Lissa. My relationship with Cuba began here in the 1980s by organizing for peace in Central America. The Nicaraguan women we met later in our Princeton Sister City project urged us to go to Cuba because we were inspired by their work to advance women's human rights by ending poverty and violence. My first trip to Cuba in 1990, hosted by the Federation of Cuban Women and leader Vilma Espin, Cubans were dealing with a special period, loss of trade and aid with the former Soviet Union. Fast forward 25 years in November, many trips later, co-leading our U.S. Women in Cuba delegations and witnessing numerous changes. Changes for Cuba's poorest started in the 1950s against the dictator Batista to build a new society that prioritizes health care and education as human rights. Schooling is free through university level. Cuban girls are highly educated, and women occupy the majority of the professions who say, now I can marry for love. Following 1959's revolutionary triumph, the Cuban government's free health care for all, especially at-risk pregnant women, significantly reduced Cuba's maternal and infant mortality rates and advanced all lifespans. Impressive given the harsh impacts of the U.S. embargo. We learned from Cuban women, some of you were there in this audience, that their constitution prohibits discrimination based on gender, race, and sexual orientation, and guarantees paid family leave, equal pay, and full reproductive rights. In Cuba's national parliament, women are 45%. In the US, only 18%. We love the National Center for Sex Education, which reaches all Cubans with media and age-appropriate information to foster healthy sexual development, gender equality, prevention of intimate violence, and ending homophobia with campaigns in every province. Could Cuba be the sexiest country in the world? Ha! Changes to U.S. policy restricting Cuban travel are still needed. Our delegations are people-to-people engagement, discovering common interests over the years, not only rum, cigars, and Buena Vista music, of course, by exchanging and learning from the people. Here with our Cuban media partner, Maheen authors, at the book party launch. But up on our rooftop bar in Santiago de Cuba, how better to work across borders with Las Isabelas Lesbian and Allies Group, challenging discrimination and prejudice both in Cuba and in the US by organizing Cuban women's speaking tours and conducting my own research for the best Cuban mojito. As the Cuban economy adapts to the global recession and reinvents itself, President Raul Castro's policies increase private ownership in different sectors, visiting women-owned small businesses in rural Las Terrazas at Maria's Cafe, and solidarity shopping in new clothing stores in Old Havana. Global solidarity is a major Cuban value, sending doctors to Africa, literacy training in 50 nations, or organizing together for peace and global justice with FIDEM Congress in Venezuela. Last year found us collaborating with Cuba at the UN Commission on the Status of Women in New York. Our citizen diplomacy moves in the halls of Washington, D.C., lobbying our congressional delegation, my harem, to end the U.S. travel and trade embargo, as well as in the streets, marching with 10,000 people at the U.S. social forums. We organize as part of a movement for action and peaceful, just relations. Reporting back home, we've learned that Cuban people welcome the U.S. visitors and joint business ventures, but are prepared to defend their country's priorities, hard-won national sovereignty, and Cuban cultural values. We invite you to join our group, Gallatin Valley Friends of Cuba, and of course to see and enjoy Cuba for yourself. We are only highlighting some of the ongoing changes taking place in Cuba, including the 2014 renewal of diplomatic relations, led by Presidents Obama and Castro. Having been bit by the Cuba bug, we want to go back with a Montana delegation to foster more friendships through development of sister cities and projects. Credit for the really beautiful photos is all Lissa's. Check out her website. For more information on Cuba and upcoming trips, sign up on the Women in Cuba website. Muchas gracias. Viva Cuba.